to ask you how you see the climate. You were talking about unicorns just a minute ago. Are you seeing any kind of new trends in the things people are investing in or the kind of investors who are involved?
So the trends are actually somewhat predictable. If you are a student of what's happened in China in the last 15 years, you can actually see the patterns, and they're actually happening in Southeast Asia in almost the same sequence too. So for an investor, that's like a dream, right? You can actually see the future. So we're very excited about it because I think having spent 5 years in China as a VC, I actually have a sense of what's going to happen in financial services and logistics. And, all the bigger ones you saw, those are sort of, it's too late now for VCs. They're worth like 10 million, 7 million. But the new ones are actually pretty exciting. I think Southeast Asia will have its own twists around, let's say, lending, for example. That's going to be big here and there. But in the end, it's the entrepreneurs. That's the toughest thing, trying to find the human being that's going to drive the company from 0 revenues to 100 million revenues and more. There are very few humans on the earth that can do that. I'm trying to find those who understand Southeast Asia. That's right.
Okay. Thank you. So next, if you would pass the microphone to Vu Van. Vu is the co-founder and CEO of ELSA, which is an English language pronunciation automated assistant, right? And so, Vu, you used to be in the consulting space, right? How did you get into this sector, being an entrepreneur with ELSA?
So, hello everybody, my name is Vu, and I was born and raised in Vietnam, and I was here at Stanford as an alum. I was there at the business school and master in education, school of education. So once I finished school here, I joined consultant, and I think I shared with a few of you, but the biggest reason why I joined consultant was as an international student, you kind of need a green card. And you gotta figure out your path to get there fastest so that you can go pursue your dream as a free person in this country. So that was the reason. Now you have to choose one. That's what I was about to say. You gotta figure out what choices you have out there. There's a lot of choices, but you gotta pick what you also like to do and what you can learn the most out of years that you want to be there doing ELSA, but ELSA was more a personal passion for me. I moved here from Vietnam, and honestly, when I was at Stanford in my first quarter, when I spoke English, people had a really hard time understanding me. And as an MBA student, classes are relying on you to kind of share your opinions, ideas, right? So how smart you are depends on how smart things you say in class. And I was raising my hands and say a lot of things. And so many times the professor would just basically acknowledge what you said and kind of skip over. 5 minutes later, your American classmate raised their hands and said something, and the professor would have thought, that was a genius idea, let's jump right in and discover and analyze it more. And you were sitting there thinking, I was saying exactly the same thing. So why was that? And so then I figured out that people couldn't understand me well, and they didn't want to embarrass me and don't want to be like asking me to clarify over and over. So English has becoming a very big part. I was trying really hard on my own to figure out how can I improve my pronunciation. And so when I quit my consultant, I really believe that there's so many people out there that can benefit from this solution that wasn't exist back then. So that's how I got into this English language space.
Let me ask you, how does Southeast Asia look to ELSA? Do you see any, which are the market segments that you think are really going to go big first?
Well, if you teach English, America is not really a market for most people here. Even if you are international here, the market is small. So as I think about, hey, where exactly is the people that need my product the most, it has to be outside of the U.S. West in that sense. So I decided to go back to Southeast Asia first when we launched the product because I came from Vietnam. I know the product really well. There's 100 million people in Vietnam, and I'm pretty sure probably 90% of them will need certain help as they want to learn to speak English. And the good thing is you don't have to go out and convince people in Southeast Asia that you need to speak better English anymore. It's a given that when you speak better English, you get a better job. Your income is double or triple that. So when you have such a market that the problem is there, you don't have to convince them of their problem. You just have to convince them that you have a solution for them. That's why I go back to Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, all of these are big countries, except for Singapore.
Actually, where I'm going with this, are you looking at the adult market or are you looking at the children market?
We look at the entire market.
The entire market, okay. All right, thanks. I'm sure we'll come back to talk about this area as well as general trends. So next to you is Casper Sermsuksan, who is the co-founder and CEO of Kulina. And Kulina is a food technology platform that works with chefs and restaurants to deliver curated meals. And you've got a last mile delivery algorithm, right? So how did you get into this?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting story. So I was actually in here, not in this room particularly, in C Connect before I moved back from San Francisco to my home. I was born in Thailand. So backtrack a little bit, I was born in Thailand. I moved to Singapore when I was younger, and I moved here to the US. I went to USC, not as good as Stanford, but because I was Stanford of the South. Harvard of California. So we party hard. That was good. So then I was working in San Francisco for a little while. I was working for running a product management team and product marketing team for a casino game that makes about $200 million a year. And in that industry, everything we do is good. I learned very quickly, got promoted really fast. But it was like, and then my friend asked me, why do you scam and spam people? And I have no better answer. So that I questioned my life and decided I have to move on. There's something that matters. A skill to do something that's actually better. So I reached out to Michelle, actually, who is the principal at Mongshu Ventures because of a connection. So then I came to here, meet Peng, meet Helen too when I was here. I should realize that. And then now I was talking to them, to Michelle because I wanted to move to Hong Kong actually. And then Michelle was like, yeah, I would like to introduce you to my co-founder, who is my co-founders now. Both of them are Andes. Both of them named are Andes, so I call them Andes. I meet them and they're like, yeah, they were based in Indonesia. Would you like to move there? I was like, what is in Indonesia? Right? Like, as a Thai person, no one has ever moved there before. Right? Like, people be like, why are you moving to Indonesia? And I actually realized that right now we have two Thai people working in tech, running a company in Indonesia too. You're really a small community there, so I think we more and more community there.
Just for perspective, 70 million.
Yeah, so two there that make it there. Hopefully more will come, but when I look at the market, right, I was like, I look at Thailand. There's nothing much. As you can see from the slides, I didn't have this information before, but I was like, things are going on in Indonesia, and the more I talk to VC, the more I talk to people in the area, they say this is where you want to be. And I was like, yeah, it's very easy for me to move back home when I'm out, but it's a lot harder to go back to Thailand and move to Indonesia, where I don't know anyone, right? So that's what I decided to do, and now I'm in Indonesia, and there's a lot more stuff going on, and that's how I got.
Yeah, okay. So one of the common challenges in every rapidly growing Asian city is traffic.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the delivery? And this must be a huge.
Yeah, so this is actually very interesting because that's why Gojek, right? As many of you know, Gojek become where they are because they started with motorbike on demand, which is something that when I talk to people here in San Francisco, we have a unicorn in Indonesia that do motorbike delivery. With Uber driver here, they're like, wow, how can you do that? It seems fun. I was like, it's not fun. It's very scary. That's the only way you can travel and get to places on time. right? And you have to start to adapt to a lot of things. So when we talk about delivery, we also, the reason why we survive is also exactly because of traffic, right? So that's the market that we're looking after. People do try to find ways or you find solutions of getting food because you cannot go out get food. Like here, you walk around in Jakarta, you have no sidewalk, as in many countries, right? And that's how we do that, and that's the reason why we have motorbike delivery, and then we start to develop more and more. How do we match that with like on-feed deliveries and stuff? So those are the things that we have been looking at, and this is the problems that only exist in some of the Asian cities and some of the developing countries, right? And that's kind of where I see the opportunities. You cannot bring anything that works in San Francisco. You cannot just bring anything that works in China, put it in Southeast Asia, and believe that it will work. And that's why I think there's a big opportunity. And I think that is how we come up and build a unicorn company, because it hasn't seen before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Casper. Let's move on, and our final panelist is Ms. Helen Fu, and Helen is the Vice President of Product Management for Alation. And Alation is a collaborative enterprise data catalog that combines machine learning with human insight. And she's also an operating advisor to Monksville Ventures. How did you get into this, and how do you divide your time?
So I also spent a couple of years in China building a startup from ground up, using AI for predictive analytics in financial sector. And then I had the opportunity to move to Singapore for family reasons. And I was introduced to Peng. And the first thing I met with Peng was like, what's your purpose? What do you want to do with life? To do. And so we got into discussions, and next thing I know, I joined Monks Venture to really help out with entrepreneurs, evaluating what are the opportunities, understanding all the opportunities in different markets and Southeast Asia, and just seeing the similar patterns. All the data is everywhere, and how people are digitizing, how people are leveraging the inefficiency in the emerging market and creating new business, new unicorns out of the area, and really improving lives as well. And so I just it was really fun working with the team. So for family reasons, I moved back to the Silicon Valley, which is the company I'm with now. And so balancing time between different things is
so tell us a little bit about Alation.
Yeah, Alation. The problem it solves is, there's data everywhere in enterprise. People are using data to do clinical studies and precision medicine, right? Understanding, creating new models for insurance. A lot of analytics or programs are being established. People realizing that data is value, is oil. And so, but the problem is data knowledge is so siloed. There's people with data in one department, and some other departments creating the exact same set of data, creating value out of it, and no one's talking to each other. So it's a lot of siloed knowledge. So what we've done is created an enterprise-wide self-service analytics platform, and for everybody to self-service and cataloging all the information to help you find, understand, and trust the data that you're using, that eventually goes into making valuable decisions.
So to the extent that the cloud is borderless, right? Yeah. Your company could be anywhere. Absolutely. And you're really thinking about globalization at this point, right? The company's still young enough really for this to be kind of early stages. In looking at Southeast Asia, what are the main benefits you see, and what are the kind of concerns you would have that maybe say, well, maybe we ought to do something else first? How do you see that at this point?
So you're asking.
Yeah, what are the benefits and also big challenges that are influencing your decision about when and how to go into Southeast Asia?
So I think it's really scaling in the company, right? So from 0 to 100 million, there are challenges of where is the business strategy, where are the opportunities, where are the growth for the next, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And in Asia, South Asia, for example, earlier you saw a bunch of unicorns. We actually have companies coming into us. 2 of those customers are asking us, can you help us solve our problems? So it is borderless, and the challenge is, when do you staff up, and when do you go to those markets, and how do you staff up? Because there's a lot of localization you have to do when you go to new markets. So.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.